with the building itself. Okay, so here we have the mural as okay. This one here we have Park and Fifth Street. And this is what the mural looks like today. This is the mural in 1987. Now the mural actually did have a name, so I decided I would go ahead and let everybody know what the name was. This was the actual name of the mural, the Pictorial History of African Americans in Champaign County. But the wall needed a lot of work. This is the wall. So one of the things that we had to look at when we're looking at the wall is to make it so that you can use it. And so that was a whole lot of another expense that we hadn't even thought about, you know, what were we going to do. So some of the artists that, other black artists that was working with me, you know, had other connections as well. So we start moving around trying to figure out how we was going to get these added supplies. The building needed to be tuck pointed. The building, in order for it, for anything to adhere to it, would have to been scraped, sandblasted, and then reprimed. And all of these things are things that we had to look at. The first thing we had to look at also was the measurement of the mural. Okay, now while we're discussing all of this, and I had done a real quick presentation, I hadn't started the actual cartoon for the mural. In order to do a cartoon, you have to know the exact size of the mural. So this is from my sketchbook at the time period. And here you see where we had actually gone to the building, and we had got the actual dimensions. Now one of the things that Mr. Marco stated is he said he didn't mind if we do the mural, but he wanted his windows left open, you know, because he was getting light through those windows, even though the windows really looked kind of bad. And he needed the use of the door. Okay, so I had to work around the windows, and I also had to figure a way how to be able to paint the door so they could still open and shut and not disturb the mural when they were shut, when it was shut. Yeah. This is talking about the first things of the mural. One of the very first things of the mural actually began right there at that first meeting, okay, where we start talking about what it is that they wanted to do, you know, and some of the things, the ideas of they wanted scenes from Africa. They wanted, of course, a representation of slavery. So, you know, it's like the plantation and cotton fields, you know, to represent, you know, the idea, the concept of slavery. They wanted references to Africa. So, and then I began to also think about some of the things that I wanted to, how did African Americans come from the South to the North, you know, right after the Civil War? What was one of the major ways that they came? They came by railroad. So, okay, so we say, okay, so they came by railroad. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe, you know, I want to like do a family or have a family. So this is one of the first sketches, very quickly to get kind of an idea of what it is that we're looking at for the mural. And of course, as it goes on, these sketches change and alter. In preparing for the presentation at the Park District, I had to think of some other things as well. When you're talking in terms, you're asking people for money, you have to put together a budget, a basic budget of what supplies that you will need. So I had to think of what was the color scheme. So as you can see across the bottom, I'm looking at this color scheme, the basic colors that I want, or colors that correspond with those basic colors. And from those basic colors, we created all the other colors. Because as we went on, I taught the students how to mix the colors. And then we'd mix them in large jars, and then that way we would have the colors to continue on. And some other things. And again, once more, we're looking at the thing, because I'm talking and still talking with other people. So now we're looking at, I'm looking at the family. I say, well, how do I want the family? So I say, I want a grandpa, a grandmother, a father, a girl with her thumb in her mouth, and another girl, and probably a brother. So I'm looking at the compositions now, beginning to think about that. Moved over, as you can see, I moved over from at the very top corner over here. I moved over the huts, so we now have African fields, huts, and then we're looking at shanties. So we're talking about shanties, you know, from the plantation row, and once more again this reoccurring of the cotton fields. So it's constantly doing this reoccurrence of the cotton fields. But now I'm beginning to look at the costs, what's going to have to be done. Through this process, once we got everything together, and of course got the supplies and everything, then it came to the point where we had to hire the students. Okay, now we ended up with two crews of students. We ended up with 20 students, high school students, and like I said, young adults. But you can't paint with 20 kids working in one area on a wall. 20 kids, I don't care. It's, especially if they have no artistic talent. There's only about one, maybe about 4 of the high school students actually had artistic talent. The rest of them did not. So then now we have to look at how we're going to work with this, because they're supposed to be doing the painting and helping with every stage. So how do we work this out? So we decided there would be 2 crews. Okay, the morning crew would come to the mural in the morning, and in the afternoon they would go to CETA, and they would continue with their job training or their training program. The afternoon crew would go to CETA in the morning, and then they would come to me and the mural in the afternoon. That way the kids were hired for a full day, and I was able to work with all of them. So here you see the morning crew. Every morning they get up, drag over there, you know, have to be there approximately 8 o'clock, between 8 and 9, you know, but by 9 I wanted pretty much to be set up so that we were working, so I would get close to 4 hours of work from them. So, you know, as you can see, they're not really happy. It's kind of like dragging up. Okay, the first few days I had to sit and talk to them. Okay, go back, I went too fast. So the first step was to prime the wall. First step was to tuck point the wall. Okay, so we had to tuck point the wall. And as you can see, where the dark areas are, that's all the areas that we had to tuck point across the wall. Now originally we was also thinking about taking the mural, not just the front wall, but all the way down the side where the parking lot is today and where the park used to be. So we decided if we're going to go after the money for the next year, then we might as well go ahead and do the priming, the tuck pointing, and everything of the entire walls. That way, when we get the money, we could just go in, you know, clean the wall, and then be able to start working with it because it'll already be primed and prepared. So we had the kids tuck point both